Hello and Grüß Gott. On this video, we're going to be changing the rear struts on a 2001 Toyota Camry, but this is the Japanese vintage, so it's important you know your vintage. For example, if it's Japanese, the VIN number is going to start with JT for Japan Toyota. So I'm going to use these new Strut Plus. These are SR 435 and SR 4035 and SR 4036. I'll show you what one looks like. So it comes complete with the coil spring, the boot, the upper bearing, everything ready to install on the vehicle. And the reason I chose these was because they're assembled in the USA, and I know KYB makes excellent components. So I'm going to put these on, and we're going to show you how to do that. So some of the items you're going to need are safety glasses, gloves, and various kinds of wrenches, some of which are these long-handled ratcheting wrenches, which makes it easy to get inside to get the top nuts off to take the old struts off. So you're also going to need some jack stands and a good floor jack, and then a safety jack. We chalked the front wheels, and what we're going to do is go into the center underneath, and there's a jacking point, and we'll show you that on camera here in a minute. And we're going to jack up the vehicle after we have loosened the lug nuts. We're just going to barely loosen them. And then we're going to jack it up, put jack stands underneath so everything's safe, and then we'll take the wheels completely off, and then we'll start the process. So I'm going to show you the jacking point here in a second. Okay, looking from the back of the car, right now we have the jack in place. Again, the wheels are chalked in the front on both sides. So now we're able to start bringing the rear up, and we're going to bring it up until the wheels come off the ground, far enough to where we can put safety jack stands in a couple of locations on each side. Always be sure you have some safety things in place if you're not using an actual full lift. So we'll get that done, and we'll come back and show you what's next. Okay, so this is seen from the back of the car. We have the car still on the main jack, but we let it come down onto two jack stands with a couple of pieces of wood as a cushion. And then we also have some more safety systems in place I'm going to show you here in a second. They're on the side of the car. Okay, on the side of the car, we have scissor jacks on each side, and then an extra scissor jack just in case underneath the rocker panel, and an extra jack stand under the rocker panel just in case anything was to happen. No way should we be able to get hurt or anything like that, because we're going to have both rear wheels off, and you really want to try to work as safely as possible. So at this point, we're ready to take the two rear wheels off. We're going to get that done, and then we'll come back. At this point, you're going to take this 12 millimeter bracket loose that holds the brake line. I've already loosened it. And then there's a 14 millimeter nut back here that goes to this sway bar piece. And you notice there's a hex head or Allen head hexagonal stick wrench type thing here. And in my case, I was able just to break the nut loose quite easily without having to put a Allen wrench in here. It'd be metric, of course. But you may have to put an Allen wrench in, like you put your wrench on and then you put an Allen wrench in here to keep that from turning while you loosen the nut. So we're going to take those items loose, and then we also put a jack underneath the brake hub here, so that once we start taking things loose, this is going to be supported. So we've done that, and then we're going to take the two big bolts that go to the strut. They're down underneath here. We're going to take those loose, and at that point we'll come back and show you what we're going to do after that. All right, we've done some disassembly work here, and I want to talk you through what I've done. So this line right here, it goes to a 10 millimeter bolt that goes underneath here, and I have put that bolt back in temporarily. There's a 12 millimeter bolt here that goes to the brake line bracket, and I've temporarily taken off the brake caliper and moved it aside. It had two 14 millimeter bolts holding it into place. So I took those loose and took it aside, and I'll explain why I had to do that here in a minute. I also took this link loose with a 14mm bolt, and you may have to put a hex or Allen head wrench in here to hold it while you turn the nut. And so again, I pulled the caliper assembly loose, wire tied it over here out of the way, making very careful not to kink or damage the line. So then I took an impact driver right here and used a 19mm impact driver to remove the two nuts that go to the lower portion of this strut. Now these are put on with over 200 foot-pounds of torque at the factory. Not really sure why, but in order to take them off, you're going to have to use an impact driver or a very, very large tool to get them loose. Also, you're going to want to PB blast them before you try to take them loose. So you put some PB blast in, let it sit in there for a day or two, and then try to take them loose. So that's what we did, and we got them loose. So now all I have to do is pull these bolts out, and I have this suspended with a jack so it won't fall down. So we'll take these loose, but before we do that, we're actually going to go up inside, from inside the car, and remove the three nuts that hold this whole unit into place. So we're going to open up the car, and I'll show you how that's done. In order to get to the nuts on top of the struts, one thing you have to do is you have to pull the bottom cushion off the back seat, and that just simply lifts up. That'll snap it out in the front, and then you feed the seat belts through, and then there's two bolts, one on each side, you have to take loose to get this piece loose, and then we'll fold down we'll put it down a towel so it doesn't damage it, and we'll fold down these seats, and we'll be able to get to some of the other components. Okay, once you have this cushion out on each side, you're going to have access to the three 12mm nuts that go to the top of the strut. So you're going to have to use about a 1.5 or 2 foot long ratcheting type wrench. You won't be able to get a socket in there most likely. So I'll show you the type of tool I use to get in there, but you can loosen those three, take them out, and then we'll be able to pull the whole strut loose. And so I'll show you that here in just a second. Okay, so here's a picture of the 12mm ratcheting type long wrench I used. It's called a Clutch brand, and I got it from Northern Tool Company. And I actually have the whole set of these. They're kind of expensive, but they're totally useful. So again, it's 12mm side. We've taken the three nuts loose on top. So this is loose up there. Everything is disconnected here. I've taken one of the bolts out from below. I used a impact driver like this to knock it loose. And I'm ready to take the other one out. And I have this whole assembly supported with a jack stand. So theoretically, I should be able to knock that out and take the strut loose without any problems. So I'm just gently tapping that out. There goes the other bolt. So now I'm going to work this loose, down and out, and we'll get it out, and I'll be right back. Okay, we've gotten the old strut out. To do that, you have to use the jack to lower this down carefully. It's kind of a two-person job, makes it easier. Then when you get it down low enough, you can push the strut up again, push it back and out and around, and wiggle it down and bring it out. And then the new one I'm going to put in is a KYB SR 4035. So SR 4035 for the right rear. So I'm going to put that in and we'll come back. We've reassembled this whole area here. We use Loctite on everything. The bolts that go through this lower strut piece are supposed to be torqued over 200 foot-pounds. We actually use the impact driver to tighten them up. We tightened them with a torque wrench first to about 120 foot-pounds, and then we gave them a couple of quick zips on the impact driver. I don't know why they want it so tight. And we also put the bolts going this way this time instead of that way. So next time when we need to take the nuts off with an impact driver, or whoever has to do it, they won't have to take the brake caliper off like we did. Now I've already looked at the other side, and on it, it's going to come off with the nuts facing forward, so it won't be a problem. Again, we put Loctite on all the various nuts and bolts. We reused the top strut bolts because the ones that came from KYB were regular nuts, and the problem was you couldn't get a wrench on them because they sat so low. The ones that originally came with Toyota actually had a built-in spacer or a shoulder at the bottom of the nut, and then the part for the wrench to go on top of it. And that was so that when you tighten it down, you could actually get to it with a wrench. So they, if I remember right, were M8 I want to say 1.25, but I don't want to swear to that. You'll have to use your instrument to check them. But in this case, the Toyota bolts actually fit exactly on the same thread pitch and same thread size. So no problems there. We snugged them up real good. Now we're ready to reassemble this side. So while I have it all open, I'm going to go in here and personally I'm going to spray some materials in here to help lubricate the rubber, fluid film, for example, and a couple other things. This rubber is very old and it's starting to crack, so I want to give it some kind of treatment so to make it last a little longer if I can while I'm in here. Also, we'll go ahead and do the other side without showing you, and then we'll come back and show you what the whole thing looks like, because we expect the whole car to be lifted higher until we do the front end, which we'll do on another video. So we'll be back in a short while and we'll show you what the whole car looks like with the other strut on. All right, so we finished the job. You can see that the rear end is maybe a slight bit high, not much, maybe half an inch compared to what it was. And don't forget to torque your wheels on. They're at 76 foot-pounds. So we've got them torqued on both sides. And that's really pretty much everything for this video. I would say this job was not for the normal, regular, run-of-the-mill home mechanic. It does require an impact driver or a 3/4 inch breaker bar. Very difficult to get those knuckle bolts loose. So it's something you'll need a specialized tool set for. So that's all there is to this video. Thanks for watching. Tschüss.